Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 4th episode of Everyday Life with Paul and Steve. I'm Paul.
And I'm Steve. And on this show, we discuss things that are going on in our lives and the world around us.
Yeah, and on this episode, Steve, we're going to do something a little bit different here. We each have our own guests that we're bringing on the show. And later on the show, my first guest is going to be artist Steven Bejma, who specializes in classic horror artwork. And Steve, who are you going to have on?
Well, I'm lucky enough to bring on an engineer named Mike Switslicki, who actually invented the J-Bar. And you know what? Let's go right into that interview. This is what we talked about. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Everyday Life with Paul and Steve. I'm Steve Brown, and Paul Smith, my partner, is actually working the cameras today, so he's still here. But we actually have our first guest, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for being here. I guess tell some people what you do other than Costco, obviously. I know that's actually kind of how we met. We both worked at Costco together, and how did we kind of like go from there? Did you just ask us? Did I tell you that we had a production company?
I think that it was just kind of general work chit chat.
Okay.
And it was one of those opportunistic moments, and I saw an opportunity for two companies to actually work off each other to be mutually beneficial to each other. So we were just talking, and I said, hey, I'm looking for a crew to come and do my shoot for a commercial for a tool that I have. And so at that time, we were and still are not a very big gig, but we're working on it as you guys are as well, and trying to get everything up and running. And so that's kind of how everything in the world works, is you help each other out. So that's what we're trying to do. But yeah, so I currently patented a new construction tool.
The J-Bar.
Selfless plug here. You guys came right along and swooped up in and took that role and ran with it. And you guys are probably one of the better production teams I've worked with. I've worked with a few in the past. You guys, one thing that I noted to Paul was the layout on the scripting was just perfect. Like, easy to edit, easy to back and forth, very, very fluid, super awesome. Paul definitely knows what he's doing when it comes to that stuff.
And that's kind of how it started. Yeah, we kind of had the idea after you told us, and we're like, okay, well, let's come up with a script. And then we sent it over to you, and we're like, you tell us, because you know the actual terms and how this works out. And you're like, you're pretty close. Like, yeah. You're like, honestly, just, a couple of terms, like I said, we just had to fix. And then I guess for a little while, we had just started figuring out the different types of shots. But before that, we had to know what the actual tool was. And then you explained how you came up with the idea and how you even made it, which I guess, you know what, let's take a second and show everybody what we're talking about. So
that might help.
Let's run a commercial for the J-Bar real quick. Check it out.
Is there a way to make cutting plywood easier, faster, safer, and more efficient? Now there is. Introducing the J-Bar. The J-Bar is a third-hand tool that aids in cutting sheet material with a circular saw. Made out of quality steel, all made and manufactured in the USA. Use the J-Bar to cut sheet material any length, any width, up to 3/4 inches thick, including fiberglass, sheet metal, drywall, and wood. You can set up the J-Bar on the back of a truck bed, on a workbench, and even on the ground. Plus, the U-shaped design protects the blade and lifts the material off the ground. It's simple to set up and even easier to use. It will save you time and money. The J-Bar is a perfect gift for anyone who likes to make home improvements, or if you're a contractor or business owner who wants to be faster and more efficient with the resources you have, or working safer by preventing saw kickback. To set up the J-Bar, first, strike your line to make your in and out cut points. Second, lift sheet material, then place the J-Bar beneath each side of the material. Third, run the saw along the line through the U-channel design. The J-Bar uses counterweight to hold the material in place after the cut is complete. Make a cut and you're done. The J-Bar comes as a set for one price of $149.99. The J-Bar is handcrafted, high-quality steel that will last for generations. Every piece of this tool is 100% made in the USA, built by Americans, for Americans. To purchase a J-Bar, you can call 248-227-6268 or email jbarproduct@gmail.com. That's jbarproduct@gmail.com.
All right, so that is what the J-Bar is. It's a third-hand tool that'll help you with cutting pretty much anything you need to cut with a saw.
Yeah, any sheet material up to,
Yes.
like it says, up to 3/4 of an inch. So if you've got sheet material and it needs cutting and you're the only one doing it, this is definitely a much safer way to do it and a heck of a lot faster.
Yeah, and actually, you showed a few things. I don't know if anybody caught it, but at least you had mentioned it to me as well. One of the shots, you're using your left hand, which, so you were showing you only need one hand technically, because I think you were also mentioning that there are a lot of veterans that you were trying to help out, and some of them obviously may have lost limbs, and and that's still a great tool that they can use as well, and it's made in the USA in America.
Yeah,
So-
that's absolutely correct. We're trying to incorporate as much as we can, giving back to people who have given above and beyond what they should be giving or should ever be asked to give. And so, one of the tragedies of war is loss of limb. And so we're trying to give these guys a second start in life and give them a leg up on the competition, no pun intended. But get them back into the working force. Blue collar jobs are high demand for it right now, very, very high. And so we're trying to help fill that gap, but do it in a way that we can incorporate everyone and leave no one behind, as they say. A soldier never leaves a fallen man behind, and we're here to do the same thing. We don't want to leave anyone behind. We want to make sure that everyone's included.
Exactly. So just kind of explain how you came up with the idea, because it's a strange shape, and it's like it's not that
it is, and the story behind it is one that is very cliche. It's one of those. There was a kids movie, I don't remember what it was, but it emphasized find a need, fill a need kind of thing.
Okay.
And so I was in my basement cutting plywood, and I didn't have a table. I didn't have a sawhorse. I was massively unprepared, and I said, there's got to be a better way. and from that simple phrase of there has to be a better way, it sparked in my idea, and obviously the original drawing looks nothing like what it came out to be currently in current production, but we worked through the bugs. We actually we went to an engineering team, and they've helped us out, and my first rough prototype was actually within an inch of what was tolerable according to the CAD drawings and all the computerized drawings that they did.
And so, I mean, obviously steel is an excellent choice. I mean, that's how you came to be, like, to make that decision. It's strong, it's durable, it'll last, which I remember you saying is very important, because you said it's a generational tool where, like, you can buy this and you can give it down to your kids, to your grandkids.
Correct.
Assuming they'll still be doing work themselves.
Yeah, that is true. It could all be computerized by then. I could be working myself out of a job here, but yeah, we actually, to count for the durability, we actually took this tool and we dropped it 35 feet multiple times on gravel. I would challenge anybody to do that to any tool and see what the survival rate is. And we actually then turned around and used that tool. There was definitely surface damage to the tool, obviously. But yeah, it functions, it runs, and it does exactly what it's claims to do. It just works.
Right. And the fact that you said you wanted it to be one piece, I thought was important too, because you could have made, if you have, I think you said if you have multiple pieces, you have the opportunity for something to break in between those or something to go wrong.
Anytime you add a moving part, you add a possibility for failure.
Right.
So and then that becomes, and you have to add screws and bolts and washers and all these other components. And I've done construction in my life, and I know that when a guy grabs a hammer, he doesn't want to have to try to figure out how to get it to work. Like, he just wants to go and use it. So that's what we were really going for with simplicity, because simplicity, it's the KISS method. Keep it stupid simple, and that's just what we try to do, is just keep it stupid simple, so you can hand it to anybody and they can go and do the job faster and safer than your average worker.
Yeah, and I like the way that you said that too, because some people used to say keep it simple, stupid, like calling the person dumb. But you said keep it stupid, simple, like keep everything as simple as possible. Even Einstein said that. He's like, you don't have to stop making complicated things, but make them as simple as possible. Make them easy to use. And again, that's a product that's ready to go. As soon as you grab it, you don't have to turn anything on, don't have to plug anything other than the saw, unless you have an electric saw. But I loved every part of it. It was cool to be able to make the commercial. Me and Paul enjoyed, doing that with you, having you and your father in there. And just seeing, we got to watch you put, you're welding the steel.
Yeah.
We got to see, all of it together. So that was just an incredible thing. And we talked about some other things that, just in general, we start talking, obviously, and we work together. You told me that you had a water wheel, I think, or you mentioned that you were working on a water wheel at one point. I thought that was so interesting. I'm like, okay, this guy is not only just come up with one idea. I'm like, he's always thinking of things. Like, you're an engineer, you're creating. Talk to me a little bit about like the water wheel.
So a few years back, I had come across, and I don't remember what it was called. It wasn't the Da Vinci water wheel, but it was something back in Greek and Roman times that they came up with this. And I was like, why are we not implementing this? So basically what it is, it's your average style paddle water wheel. And what there is in there is there's actually a scoop on one of the paddles. And attached to the scoop is actually a line or a hose. And that hose slowly coils like a snail shell.
Okay.
It gets larger and then slowly gets smaller to the center. And in the center where the axle is for the wheel to rotate on, that goes down to another line, which then goes up to a holding tank. So as the wheel spins, that scoops up water. Then that slowly gets compressed. As that gets compressed, it creates pressure. The same kind of pressure you get out of your sink or your water faucet or anything else. This is just doing it through rotation rather than height. So you create that pressure, and then that will then, we actually, when I did my test on it, we ran it. It was like 160 feet away and 30 feet up vertical.
Yeah.
Just off of a rotation of a water wheel.
That's crazy. And that's what makes you think, like, why aren't we using the things that are available to us? I always thought about even like a river. Obviously, that's what they have dams for now. Mm-hmm. But I always wondered about the current in the ocean. Couldn't you technically just have a little thing that spins back and forth as the current moves? I haven't put much thought into it, but I love the idea. Like, why can't we use more of the natural things around us?
There is actually something that there's multiple designs they actually are working on. They have float designs. They have above water, underwater. There are multiple designs that they are currently working on. I think it's Denmark or something like that. Another country in Europe is actually employing floats that go up and down, and there's hydraulic cylinders that are attached to motors, and it actually creates kinetic energy through the waves and all. It can get really complicated. It can be as simple or as complicated as you want to make it.
Yeah.
But that's my thought was the Detroit River.
Yeah,
why are we not doing this here? Like, we have this huge river. It's fast flowing. There's a lot of water. You throw a bunch of these down the river, you never have to ever worry about water ever again. And it's not powered by electricity, and there's going to be maintenance to it as there is everything else. But that could really be a potential leg up on the future. So if the Michigan government is listening to this, or the Detroit Water is listening to this, you heard it first.
Mike's got the plan.
Yep. Go green.
All right, so yes, the J-Bar, excellent tool.
And we're back.
Yeah, but no, I was going to say also, you're into a lot of little things. You literally looked at the fish in my fish tank. Somebody asked me one time, like, what kind of fish is that? I have no idea what kind of fish. I guess I should have known. But, you went right up to it, and you're like, oh, this is that and that. What kind of fish is it?
So the fish you actually have in your tank is called a gourami. And they're actually unique little fish. If memory serves me correctly, they're from, I believe, South America. They're a freshwater species, and so they have what these little tentacles or feelers at the bottom. And so what that is for, from my understanding, is that in dark or low lit conditions, they can actually use those feelers to sense water movement. They can sense the ground, they sense the weeds, their environment, and it helps them understand their environment much better than just plain eyesight or when their eyesight fails them.
And that makes sense because I've watched him. He's feeling around with that stuff. I actually was wondering. I said, I wonder if other fish have these, and they just get maybe ripped off in nature, like the battle and struggle of nature. I figured, we got this little fish from a fish tank, like from a larger fish tank, put them in my little fish tank. But I was like, maybe that they just get ripped off in nature. But that's interesting that, I mean, every animal in general has their own unique little thing to give them that extra edge.
Yeah, there's
Survival of the
actually catfish, local species actually have the same thing, the little whiskers.
Yeah, okay.
And it's the same thing. They're
Makes
down at the
sense.
bottom in low light conditions, and they need to be able to feel where they're at. And so that's exactly what that is. It's just an extra sensor for them to be able to tell. It's, cats, dogs have the same thing.
Exactly.
That's what it's there for.
Right. And if you've ever seen Guardians of the Galaxy, the girl's got the little thing like hanging over her head, and he's like, "Is that to keep you from being decapitated?" She's like, "What? No, like of course not." He's like, "Oh man, like that's what I thought that was for." But other than fish, I was gonna say you've talked to me a lot about gardening before, and we actually showed you our garden, which is. It's not doing so hot right now. The weather's changing a little bit. But what would you suggest for to fix our garden? I suppose
your garden seems to be located on the south side of your property, which is actually your optimal position. That's where you would definitely like to have a garden if you are thinking about having one. Soil conditions is your number one concern usually. So if you're a super advanced gardener and you want it to be perfect, you can get it tested and all that stuff. Or just simply do what I did. You take a stick and you mix it up the ground and you see what the content of what it is you're putting in. Around this area, it's a low-lying area. It's a lot of swamps and stuff, so you have a lot of clay, and that's just conducive of the area. And so clay is very wonderful at holding water. So if it's in a slope and your garden's at the bottom,
is. Yeah.
you're going to have moisture problems. So what you want to try to do is either amend that soil or get that plant root base out of that standing water.
Okay.
And so roots, it actually do need oxygen. And so when you're amending the soil, that's what you're trying to do, is to give oxygen and nutrients to the roots. And so that's going to give your plants your best start.
And so do you think is soil the best way or easiest way to go? Because obviously there's hydroponics. I mean,
there's a few different ways you can go. It really, like I said earlier, it can get as simple or as complicated as you want to get it.
Gotcha.
You can do simple soil, or you can get up to hydroponics or aquaponics, or which, I think we're going to segue into that here in a second.
Go on. Might as well take the lead.
All right, I'll take the lead.
Because I believe you have a nice garden, right?
Yes, I do. I have an aquaponics garden in my basement. It's a hobby garden, so it's just an IBC tote. And for those of you that don't know what an IBC tote is, it's a square plastic container with a metal cage around it. And so it's used to haul large quantities of liquids, whatever it may be.
So what's the difference between aquaponic and hydroponic?
So a aquaponic system runs off of fish waste, and that's the nutrients. A hydroponic runs off of chemical fertilizers.
Okay.
So that's the difference. So you have technically an organic versus an inorganic fertilizer. So aquaponics is a very safe, organic way of doing things, and hydroponics, you can actually introduce things into plants, chemicals that humans should not be ingesting if done incorrectly. So you have to make sure that with hydroponics you actually what's called flushing. And so before you're going to consume your tomatoes or whatever it is you want to consume, you actually have to flush the nutrients out. And usually with a hydroponic system, you'll run fresh reverse osmosis or RO water for like a day or two to flush, and sometimes more, it depends on the plant species, to actually flush a lot of that chemical out. And you're never going to get 100% of it, but you get it down to a point of where it's actually safe for human consumption, to where you're not going to have any damages.
So you have to flush it out, you're talking about before you even pick.
Correct.
Right, so
correct.
It gets into the roots. Okay. And then I think one time you talked to me about like a raised garden that you said, I forgot what you said you put in there, but you said it heats up. You can actually feel the heat from it, from like the bacteria. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so that is a straw bale gardening, and when I started doing that I think there was 2 books on it.
Okay.
That was it. So there was like 2 or 3 YouTube videos and 2 books. And so from that information, I just went at it as I do with things. And so you take a straw bale and you basically, what's called seasoning is, so about a month or 2 before, you're going to add nitrogen to the straw bale, or it's like a grass seed or a grass feed, like a micro, what is it? What am I thinking of?
Kind of like a fertilizer type
fertilizer.
of thing?
Yeah, there we go. And we'll get there. You add that to that, and you let that sit, and you let it steep, and so then that will actually then break down the straw, and it turns it into natural materials. So that will actually, as it breaks down and decomposes, it creates heat due to the bacterial exchange in there from the food being converted into energy by the bacteria, which comes out as heat.
Right.
So you can actually start your garden earlier outdoors in the spring and get a leg up on the competition. So you can actually be growing tomatoes and stuff much earlier than everybody else is. And you can do that with tarping. You can tarp it, create like a little teepee effect. So usually people like to run gardens in rows.
Mm-hmm.
So you run a row of the straw bales, same principle. At the end you put like metal posts, run some strings, and those will be where your tomatoes and whatnot grows on the strings. But you can also drape that with a tarp. And if you do that early, when you have that that exchange going on with the heat, you can actually capture some of that heat and keep those plants warm. So you can actually kind of cheat a little bit and get started a little earlier.
Definitely. No, that's a good point. So for the average person, if they want to start a garden, what's generally the best way? Is soil the easy way to?
Soil's
get
usually
started?
generally going to be your fastest and cheapest way to get into it.
Right.
And it's going to be your safest. Soil has a large pH buffer. It has a large nutrient buffer. It's safe basically. So you're not going to get into something and then in 3 months you haven't had any produce because you've killed all of it because your nutrients are off, your pH is off, your acidity is off. There's a bunch of these factors that people don't really consider or should consider that maybe they don't think about when it actually comes to gardening. Every plant, just like human beings, has its own nutrients that it can consume that's safe for them. Some people are allergic to peanuts, some people aren't. Same kind of thing with plants. Some like a higher acidity, some like a lower acidity. So as you get into it, you'll learn more things, and it's just really just start.
Yeah, that's kind of how we felt. We didn't really know what we were doing, but we figured at least we'd start learning and start seeing some of the problems we ran into, and we realized a few things. Elevating the garden would have been huge. Again, more like the soil as well. But what about worms? How much do worms affect? Because you can put worms in the soil. But,
yeah. So that's another little. I can't stop my brain.
Like aerate the soil, or
that's another. So the worms that you're talking about is called vermicomposting.
Okay.
So that is basically the worms. So composting is taking organic material, breaking it down into soil. Essentially, is what it is doing. That takes time to do that. Worms basically cut that time in half. So they take all this organic matter and they consume it, and their waste is some of the best nutrient you can get. If you go into any of these hydroponic supply stores and you get some organic, it's called worm castings, essentially worm poop. I'm not messing around here. So it's
big
called
money.
Yeah, big money. There's big money in poop, and that is some of the best nutrient-rich fertilizer you can actually get is worm castings, manure, horse manure, cow manure. That's very rich. Bat guano is huge. That's another one that I'm serious.
No, I believe it.
You laugh, but there's a lot of money in this. And so those are some things, but you can actually do this kind of stuff at home. You can go to a bait shop, get night crawlers. Take your leaves from the fall, throw them in a pile, throw the night crawlers in there, and you can do, if you care to, you can do your own experiment where you do one pile where you have worms and one pile where you don't have worms, and you will watch the other pile with the worms go down faster.
Okay.
Because they are turning that into soil much faster than it can naturally.
So now you were telling me that there's, I think, different types of worms, or like if you put two of the wrong worms in together, won't they try to like battle it out, kill each other? Or
Yeah, to a
eliminate
degree.
each other?
So just like most male species, or most species on Earth, they're very territorial. People like their space. Worms do too. Night crawlers are very territorial worms. So you'll notice if you ever dig up night crawlers, you won't see a whole bunch in a mass. You'll never find that because they like their space. The ones that are really good for composting are actually called red wigglers. And so these red wigglers are the exact opposite, however. They are not independent worms. They are actually community worms. And so if you dig up a pile of red wigglers, there will be a mass of them around organic material. So if you put like a strawberry in a pile of, or in a thing of red wigglers, you'll actually see, you can dig up under, and you'll have a handful of these worms on a strawberry.
Interesting.
And so that's how they actually eat, is in a community.
Okay. And I think you were saying that if you keep giving them more food, they'll keep growing more and more worms. And
Yep.
if you stop giving them as much, they start to
They're
the
self-regulating.
community grows. Yeah, that's pretty crazy too.
Yep, they're self-regulating. So depending on the food species, or not species, but the food supply, the community will either expand or contract depending on the demand, the supply of the food. So it's kind of a cool, it's a fun little experiment to get into. And so I have a bin of it in my basement. It does not really smell.
I was going to ask you that.
It does not smell. You would think that you're going to have a bin of worms going to town on some food and rotting compost, but it's actually not bad. Now, once you lift that lid up,
Okay.
then you can kind of smell it. But as long as you keep it well aerated, in a location where you're not, next to your office when you're doing work probably isn't a good spot. But they have to stay. They can't get too hot. Red wigglers are very temperature sensitive.
Okay.
So that's why they're not really in Michigan. It's more southern states like Georgia, South Carolina.
So then does humidity have anything to do with that as well, or just more of the temperature?
Temperature is more of a big deal for them.
Okay.
They like a fairly stable temperature, right around, anywhere between like 45, 50 degrees to 65, 70. That's right in there is their range. So basement room temperature.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
that's, or a garage floor.
Okay, that makes sense. So, what about the liquid gold? Huh? Is that
Liquid
so? Instead of the
gold.
poop, is the pee worth money too? I take it right.
The pee, it's not quite
The
pee.
urine,
That's the
sorry.
simple way of putting it. It's not quite that. I don't want to get dinged by some
Sorry.
worm expert that's gonna ding you guys. It's not pee. So what it is essentially the worms will digest what they digest, and their leftovers are in there. And then what happens is then I have holes in my bin that are drilled on the bottom, and there's a little catch tray, and I pour water over that, and that drains through. So what that does is
Gotcha.
that pulls the nutrients out of the waste, and it turns it into a liquid. And this liquid is kindly known by gardeners as liquid gold. And there's a reason it's called that, because that stuff is literally, if you're trying to grow good organic plants, that will give your plants a jump start. It adds so much good, and I'm not going to think of this right now, but it's really good organic matter for the roots, and it's microorganisms and stuff like that for the roots that actually allow your roots to continue to grow. So when you plant a plant, your first thing that the plant's is going to do is convert that energy to root growth.
Mm-hmm.
So when you first plant a plant, you will notice for the first couple of weeks it doesn't grow.
Right.
So
yeah,
the
it's true.
growth that's happening is underground. That's what it's focusing on. So you want to give those roots the absolute best chance you can
That makes
to
sense.
grow as quickly as they can. So the further out they get, the more nutrients, the more space they can get out there to actually grab more nutrients. So that's what you're trying to do, is actually speed up the root growth process. And so this liquid gold, or I believe it's coined as Lechette. I'm probably butchering that.
Is that French?
It might be. I don't know. Hey,
Very elegant.
yeah. So they and that's what it does, is it really helps your roots. And so I've given that away to several people, and they swear by it.
Okay.
And so it's a hobby, and it's just kind of fun. So
So is there anything else you kind of have in the works? Because technically the J Bar is like a department under.
yeah, an
Your-
umbrella company.
Exactly, the umbrella.
So
company.
the umbrella company is actually called Carousel Creations, and Carousel Creations was created many, many, many years ago, actually by my mother. And so she wanted to start a company making odds and ends, just a retirement company to keep her busy. And so a few years ago, she had passed away from cancer. And so I couldn't think of a better way to pay homage to her,
Right.
other than keep that alive.
Yeah.
So that is how that's created. So J-Bar is one company under the umbrella of Carousel Creations. So it gives me the opportunity to go into worm composting or vermicomposting. It gives me the opportunity to go into any number of fields that I may want to go into or create a business under, and it is essentially the parent company, the mother bird, so to speak, watching over all these other companies. So that's the name of the main company, and so J-Bar is a branch of that.
Gotcha. Is there anything else that you can talk about? I know you don't want to give away all your secrets, but
it's not really secrets. No, I mean, it's
well, obviously you didn't want to tell everyone about the J-Bar until you had it.
Until I had all the information correct. There's there's a lot of people will see Shark Tank. Let's bring Shark Tank into this. So everyone, I think you might have even mentioned it, and everybody that I talk to, that's the first thing they say is, why are you not on Shark Tank? And there's a very simple answer to that. I'm not ready.
Okay.
I'm not ready. If you watch Shark Tank and you really focus and you pay attention to what they're asking for, you have to already have a company established.
Yeah.
You have to be making money. You have to be showing gains. You have to know your numbers, and you have to be you're a businessman. You have to know it. And Mr. Wonderful will grill you to no end.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're talking to. And that I actually love Mr. Wonderful. He's one of my more favorite characters. If he's watching this, love to meet you sometime. You're a great guy. And so I love how he keeps these businesses' feet to the fire. And that's exactly and that's why people don't like him. They're like, oh, he's mean and he's insensitive. That's business.
Yeah, he's talking money. Yeah,
that's
you don't
business.
mess around with your money. There is no joke. I always think it's interesting, like you said, if you don't know your numbers. I find it amazing when people throw numbers around and over-evaluate the estimate of their company compared to how much money they made, and they're like, why are you saying it's worth $10 million when you made like $100,000 last year?
Yeah.
And exactly. I mean, not just the numbers. Obviously, you would know that, but I see what you mean where you need that everything established first. You need everything going before get to an opportunity like that. So that's smart. I'm glad, that's good that you thought about it at least.
Well, and I think there's maybe a handful of people that have gone on that show that had no numbers and they actually got a deal out of it. It's very, very, I think it's maybe less than 1% of people that would actually go on there. So I want to give this tool the best chance and best opportunity that I can. And so by running foolhardily in the direction that may not be the best direction, you really have to kind of analyze what it is you want to do, and the correct direction is not always the fastest. Mm-hmm. And so, and especially in business, and this was something that actually kind of bugs me, is when you open up your social media platforms and you see people that are talking about, you got to hustle, you got to be, all day, every day, okay. You got to be doing this, that, and the other thing, and it's like, that's wonderful, but now throw in family,
right?
40-hour work week, all these other factors, and that hustle that you see these guys doing isn't necessarily the same kind of hustle. And yes, you should definitely work, but I just like everybody else. I have a family.
You have a life.
I have a life, and so you have to make time for that, because if you don't, you burn yourself out.
Right. Well, and you ruin those ties that you have that are also important.
Correct. And you don't. That's when chips are down and things are tough, and you need someone to rely on, and family is usually the one that's there. So when you're hustling, don't forget your family.
Right.
Don't forget them, because they're the ones that have been there. And in some sad instances, they're not. But you build a family with friends and colleagues and coworkers, and you build that family. And so you need to actually make sure that, like a garden, you give it the proper attention it needs.
Good roots.
Yep, you want good roots.
That's right. No, and that's and I'm glad that we got to meet each other and got to work together, and I look forward to working on more things in the future.
Oh, I can't wait. It's gonna be great. Well, I don't see any negative in the future.
We're all going one way. We're all trying to rise up together, and again, it takes people. It takes a group of people, and we have a great community. I want to thank Paul being here. We wouldn't be doing this without him, or at least wouldn't have the same enthusiasm. Because Paul's a great guy, and we appreciate him, everything he does too. And Mike, thank you very much for being here. And well, that'll wrap it up for us. So.
All right. Glad I could be here.
All right.
All right, welcome back to Everyday Life with Paul and Steve. Obviously, Steve is not here. He's behind the cameras right now, but we do still have a Steve here with us. We have Steven Bejma with Classic Horrors, an artist. So thank you for being here with us here today.
Well, hey, thanks for having me, Paul. Glad to be here.
Awesome. And so, your specialty is Classic Horrors. And, how did you get to that point in your life where you knew you wanted to be an artist and specifically start drawing classic horror monsters?
Well, I mean, I can remember, I don't know, whatever most people's first memories are of things, whether it's school, their family, brothers, sisters, mom, dad, whatever. My first memories go back to watching horror movies with my dad and just drawing all over everything. Pictures of, actually, now, Dad used to tell this little story, and I don't know if it's completely true, but this is how he always told it. One day when Halloween was on a Saturday, like it is this year, my dad was home because he was always working, and they would always show all the old horror movies all day long, like starting at noon. They show Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, the Mummy. Just
what
back to
network
back.
was that on at the time?
Well, that would have been, I think, on Channel 2, and we had a horror movie host that was called Sir Graves Ghastly.
Okay.
And he was on from the 60s up until the early 80s.
So it was like the old school, like he would just be like, and today the next movie is The Mummy, and he would give a little description, and they would kind of lead right into.
They'd go into the movie, and they'd show, 15 minutes of the movie, a couple commercials, and then they'd come back to him, and he would do these little skits.
Okay.
Where he was basically kind of, making fun of the movie, or he had this little cast of characters. It was goofy and very kitschy, but...
it made it that show or that program.
It made it that show. He was wildly popular, and I find out in my later years that he was wildly popular all over the country. Like, people knew who this guy was. He was like one of the best horror movie hosts in the country.
Yeah.
And we had him in Detroit. But Dad said that he would say, well, I think you were 5 or 6. And I said, okay, it's Halloween. Stevie, because he was, Stevie, come on, let's go downstairs and watch Frankenstein. It's like, okay, Dad. Because anything that I did with Dad, because he was so seldom home, he was always working.
You just jumped on that opportunity.
Just jumped on because that was something that just him and I did. He didn't ask my other brothers, didn't ask my sister. It was, come on, Steve, let's go watch Frankenstein. I was like, okay, Dad. So we went down in the basement, and I know we watched it on this little black and white TV. I could still kind of remember it sitting in the corner of the basement. And he said, yeah. But 10 minutes into the movie, I could tell, oh, yeah, he's hooked. He's hooked. And then I just immediately started drawing pictures of Frankenstein on everything. Like really shitty little drawings on my schoolwork and on my desk.
There's little doodles everywhere.
There's little doodles everywhere, and I was just fascinated by it. And I, would always tell people, it's like, I'm going to grow up to be an artist. I'm gonna draw monsters. And everybody would go, oh, there, little Steve. That's okay. No, you don't get to have that job.
You don't get to have a fun job.
No, nobody makes a living drawing monsters for a living. You don't get to do that. And I was like, well, I'm going to, damn it. And I did it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It just, it still amazes me. I mean, I just turned 60 a little over a week ago. And sometimes I think about it, it's like, okay, so what do I got to do today? I've got to paint a picture of a monster, and I got to put a girl with some boobies in it. That's my job schedule for today.
Doesn't seem like a rough job at all.
It's not, and I always tell people, because they'll ask me, like at conventions, well, what's it like? What do you do? I said, well, I basically get to sit on my fat butt in the basement, listen to music, drink coffee,
hang out
and paint pictures of monsters. Wow. Do I really get to do that?
Yeah, and that's what's fun about it.
That's, to me, it's still, I am so
surreal almost still.
I mean, I'm so grateful that, number one, I get to do that. I mean, because I know guys through conventions and through friends that, are way better artists than I am. At least I think they are. But there's only so much work out there.
Yeah.
And you have to develop a relationship with some of these customers in order to gain their trust, for them to invest the time to let you be the guy that's going to say, do the cover for a DVD for them and deliver it on time, under budget, and it gets made and put out there, and you get to see it in stores and things.
And hopefully they like it on the first draft and they don't come back 15 times and say, hey, can you change all this and that?
You know, occasionally, you know, it happens where, you know, they say, well, yeah, we really like this. Could you add a little bit more to the background? You know, could you put another couple of bikers back there? Could you put another girl back there? It's usually not that big a deal.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, the process basically is they give me the movie. They give me the pre-production screener for the movie, and I'll watch it a couple of times.
Get a feel for it.
You got to get the feel for it. You know, what genre is it? You know, what is it, like a grindhouse? Is it, you know, is it a horror movie? You got to kind of get the feel and get a color scheme for what you think would be appropriate. So you watch it a couple times, and then you watch it in slow motion, and then you watch it again and take notes. And then you watch it again, even in slower motion, and then take screen grabs.
Yep.
That later you print out and you look at.
Use the elements from that to add to
and then
what.
I take those, and then I kind of put together a picture in my mind of what I think it should look like, and then I draw something, and then I submit it to them, and they either say yes or no, and then I paint it.
Yep.
But they get no input into, say, what the finished painting is going to be. Like, I pick the colors, I pick how it's going to look. How
because you're the artist.
Because I'm the
You know
artist.
what's going to look good.
Right. And
Yeah.
I, you know, after doing it for a number of years, I know what they want.
Yeah.
You know, you look at, you know, just a piece of artwork that's hanging on your wall that looks nice is completely different than, say, a book cover or a DVD cover. A picture on your wall is just a picture on your wall. I mean, it can tell a story, I suppose, but it doesn't have to. It could just be some pretty trees or some
Whatever the
flowers
artist
or
decided
whatever,
to
whatever
draw,
it is.
yeah.
Like, oh, I like that. I'll put that in my living room. Well, a DVD's kind of got to tell you what the movie's about.
Yeah.
It's got to give you an idea of whether you're even going to be interested in it at all. So after a while, you learn what works and what doesn't. And, you know, it's like a trial by error thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. But, you know, kind of going back a little bit, you know, you were talking about how you're doing this stuff now. So when you were younger, you told me a story once, you know, you got a job in Armada at a print shop. And I think that's kind of important, being part of an artist, is knowing about print work.
Mm-hmm.
So can you just kind of talk about getting that job and then the experience that you had for, you know, X amount of years working in a print shop? Because
Sure.
that's a big chunk of your career.
Well, that's where I learned that, number one, being good is not the most important thing. It's you know, you need to learn your craft, whatever it is that you're doing. You need to learn it, be good at it. But that job taught me being at work on time, being responsible, making your deadlines. When you tell something that this painting is going to be done by next Friday, damn well better be done by next Friday. If that's the deadline, there's not like, oh, I wasn't feeling good that day, so I took the day off. No, you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
When you make a commitment, you stick to it. It's just that simple. But, you know, the job thing, you know, God, I'll never forget that. You know, we moved out to Armada from Roseville. I was, I think, 11. And, you know, we're out in the middle of nowhere, just outside of town. And, you know, we used to walk uptown all the time and, you know, go up to the party store, the roller rink. The roller rink was the only thing to do in town because there was nothing there. You know, it was farm country. But anyway, by the time I was 13, you know, and I was going to school and, you know, doing my awful artwork in art class. But unbeknownst to me, that there was a little print shop in town. I used to see this building, but I never knew what it was. It was just kind of a nondescript building.
It had no sign, no nothing.
No,
just,
I mean, it said Armada Printwear on it, but, you know.
you're like printwear, like what? Like,
Yeah, I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
Nobody knew. I mean, it was just like, but they didn't have a store. You couldn't go in there. It was a shop. You know, you just didn't pay attention to it. But they had a kid that was working there that was a senior in high school, and he was doing all their artwork. And he was going off to college.
yeah.
So he was looking for somebody to replace him. So he saw some of my artwork in art class, And he went to work, told his boss, he goes, well, there's this kid that can draw, and he could do lettering and stuff.
He's pretty good.
I saw his stuff in school. You should call him up in there. I don't know how they got my phone number. I don't know how, but they called the house and
Probably contacted the school or
they
something.
may have. I never did find out exactly how they found out. Just who
maybe
exactly
a phone book
I
at the
was.
time or something.
Maybe. I mean, the Armada phone book was probably only 12 pages at the most. But they called and Uncle Ronnie, answered the phone, and they said, we're looking for Steve Bejma. We want to give job interview. And he went, yeah, okay, I'll have him up there. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know anything about it. He comes out and said, you're going uptown in an hour. I'm taking you on a job interview. I'm like, I'm laying in the pool.
Just hanging out.
It's like August. It was 90 degrees out. I'm laying in the pool, and I'm going, what? You're going. Okay.
I'm taking you up there.
Yeah, I'm taking you up there. I'm like, oh, okay. So, he took me up there, and I was 13. I didn't know shit.
No one knows it. Like
I didn't know anything.
a job never.
It never crossed my mind. I mean, the closest thing I had to a job was we lived next to an apple orchard, and if I wanted some extra cash, we would go pick up apples for the cider, and they would give us $0.25 a crate. Pick up apples off the ground, kid. Put them in this crate, and we'll meet you at the end of the row and pick you up, and we'll give you $0.25 a crate. So,
I've been to the apple orchard. How long were these roads? Were they like a mile long you had to walk, or were they like how far? Like how many apples were you picking up at a time?
Maybe like 100 yards.
So like a football field length.
Like a football field.
But there was like 100 of those that you could just go up and down almost?
Yeah, they would do different sections on different days.
Okay.
And our job was just to pick up all the apples off the ground. That's what they use for the cider. The nastier, the better. So if it was like laying on the ground and infested with, wasps and shit, they wanted you to pick that up.
Yeah, no.
And then you had to literally carry all those crates as you filled them up as you went. So by the time, you got to the end of the row, you had 50 crates of apples that you had to lug.
Yeah.
And then we'd put them on the tractor, and then they would, take them away, and then they would take it to a next row. And you could earn, good money that way, especially back then.
Yeah.
We're talking like 1972 where, $30, I couldn't spend that much money if I wanted to. There was nothing to do in Armada.
Just stacking up.
Yeah, just stacking up. So anyway, I went up to Ron, my older brother, Ron, took me up to this job interview, and he dropped me off, and I walked in, scared to death, and this guy comes out. Hi, I'm Rick. I'm the owner. This guy was like 6'5", long hair, beard, mustache, looked like a biker dude. He just scared the crap out of me. And he showed me around the shop, and he's explaining things, and I had like no idea what he was talking about, none whatsoever. Who thinks about how T-shirts get made?
No one really does.
Who thinks about how T-shirts get printed with stuff? Nobody ever does.
You just think, oh, here's a shirt, perfect.
Yeah, it's in the store. You buy it. You don't think about how it gets from an idea to that. So yeah, I don't know how long I was there for, and at the end, he kind of just looks at me and he goes, "Okay, well, you'll start on Monday." And I'm
just like that.
And I'm standing there thinking, did I say yes? I don't remember anybody asking me if I wanted a job. I don't recall that part. But I was too scared. Like I was going to tell this giant,
like no,
I don't want to work for you.
That wasn't even like a thought in your mind. You didn't even know how to say no then to someone like that.
I didn't say anything. I just stood there and went, okay. And I walked home.
That was it, yeah.
Ronnie didn't even come and get me. I walked home, which was, was less than a mile.
Yeah.
So it was no big deal. I mean, I used to walk uptown 4 or 5 times a day in the summertime. It was no big deal. And I just walked in and went, I got a job. I got to start on Monday. He goes, well, what are you going to do? I don't know.
I just got to show up.
I just got to be there. He said, be there at 8 o'clock. So I showed up there at 7:30, and I'm standing there waiting outside the front door, with my orange high-top sneakers and my old bucket Budweiser hat that I stole from Dad, and I just probably looked like such an idiot.
So how long did you work there for?
I worked
for
for
age 13 to what?
I worked for him for 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
And what was your primary? What's the process of, if someone doesn't know how shirts are made? What's the process? Explain people like it's 5 or
well,
however.
back then it was it was much cruder and simpler. Like, bowling shirts were a big thing.
Yeah.
Every bowling team had bowling shirts. So if you were on a bowling team, you'd go to a local sports shop, buy your bowling shirts.
Yeah.
Would you like those printed? Yes. What do you want it to say? Bob's Beer Bellies. Okay. So they would write up the order. They would send it to us. They'd be on a big shelf. I'd grab the next box of 5 shirts. There'd be a worker on it. It said Bob's Beer Bellies. And I would just have to kind of like draw something.
Yeah.
Most of the time it was just words.
Words or like whatever their logo they gave you or something.
Well, back then it was much cruder. People weren't looking for, wasn't a lot of artwork. And if it was really simple. Could I put 2 bowling pins at a bowling ball? Okay.
And say this is the bowling alley or
Yes.
something. Yeah.
So it was very simple. But you had to cut those designs like a paper stencil.
Okay.
So I would sit at it, I would draw the letters, draw the little piece of artwork, and I had to cut out with an X-Acto blade out of a piece of paper, like a paper stencil. And then they would use that to actually print the shirts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And, it's changed quite a bit. It's gotten a bit more technical with, different screens of motion, photos, computers, all that stuff. It's much, much easier. It was much more of a process back then. But I just remember, like, walking in, like, that Monday and went, okay, there's your desk, there's the orders, get to work.
And you're like, what?
And I sat there and went, I don't have the slightest idea what I'm doing. I don't know. What? I got no training whatsoever. The guy that was doing the artwork before me, he had already left for college. All I could do was, like, look at the stuff that he had done previously
Yeah.
and go, oh,
That's.
I guess I do this. And I'm like looking around and I'm seeing like the owner standing behind me. He's printing T-shirts, and again, he looked like he was 8 feet tall because I was, a little guy, and he just scared the crap out of me. And I just remember thinking, I got to learn how to do this. I got to learn how to do this. This guy's going to kill me if I screw this up. Because I was 13.
Yeah.
The hell did I know?
Yeah, you just got thrown into the fire.
So I learned, apparently I learned pretty quickly. And I seem to have some sort of an avocation for it.
Yeah.
After a while, I got to be pretty damn good at it. So I kind of had the run of the shop. I could do anything I wanted to. I could make up my own hours, come in when I wanted. If I wanted to come in at midnight and work till 8 in the morning and then blow the rest of the day off, I could. He didn't care.
And I feel like that's how some jobs, like, well, kind of in our field, should be. As long as you're getting the work done by the time, what does it matter if you show up from midnight to 8 in the morning?
Right.
If it needs to be done at 9 a.m., well, I'm going to come in at 6 a.m. and work. Like, I'll come in at midnight, get it all done, and I don't have to worry about
Right.
it. Or if it needs to be done by noon, I'll do it the day before. Like, as long as you're getting it done, it shouldn't matter what your hours are.
Right. The only thing I really had to pay attention to, I had to look at the work schedule as to what shirts were due on certain days. And I had to have that work done so they would have time to print the shirts ahead of time because they were going to be picked up. So as long as I made sure that the work was done and it was right and it was ready for them, and if I, said, it's 1 o'clock, can I take off? Is work done? Yep, everything's ready.
Yeah.
All right. You go get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, and I had, like, he put me in this really cool office. I mean, the office itself wasn't all that cool, but way in the back of the building.
Yeah.
Where I had, like, no human interaction. Because he said, Steve, you're just a little bit off. I try to keep you away from customers as much as possible because you're just kind of a little off sometimes. So I could, like, I had my 8-track tape collection that I would sit back
Play
there,
music, hang
and
out.
I just cranked through music. I had my own coffee pot, my own music. I even had, for the longest time, I had a little TV in there. And
It's basically just lived in there.
I lived in there because there were times, say in the busy seasons where you're working 12, 13, 14 hours a day.
Every day.
Every day. Every day. Because, you go, well, maybe I'll go in on Sunday and get all this shit, kick all this stuff out so that when I go in on Monday, my Monday will be easier.
Yeah.
Because I love doing the job so much.
You didn't care when you went in.
I didn't care how much I worked because, it turned out, Rick, the big biker, scary looking dude, was actually like really super cool guy. And, once I got just a little bit older and he realized that I wasn't a complete and total idiot, well, I probably was, but, I was paying attention and I really wanted to learn, then he really started teaching me about the business.
Yeah.
This is how this gets done. This is how this gets done. You know, some of the financial aspects of
Running a
owning
print shop.
business and running a print shop, and why is this and why is that, and you know, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but there were, you know, like simple life lessons, which really boiled down to you do what you say,
Yeah.
and if you take on the responsibility to do something, you damn well better do it. You don't let people down.
Yeah, because that's how you lose customers and relationships.
Right. And I do remember, you know, early on, I think I was like 16, and like I had promised some work to somebody. I think I just had to like do some sketches, and they were going to come in and look at them because we didn't have fax machines and stuff then.
You had to drive out to Armada.
They actually would write me a letter from the sports shop explaining what they want. I would read it, draw it, put it in an envelope, and mail it back to them. And then they would look at it and go, yeah, that looks good, and sign it, say, okay, and then mail it back to me.
What a process.
So I know there's this one time that I promised some sketches to somebody, and they showed up, and I didn't do it. And I just remember Rick coming back in my office to go, so-and-so's here.
You're like, uh-oh.
And I went, oh, shit, I did. He goes, well, he's out front waiting for you. Better go talk to him. I had to go face that guy.
Yeah.
And tell him he drove all the way out to Armada for nothing. And he ripped me a new one, and I deserved it. And you know what?
And that taught you something.
Never did that again.
Nope.
Because I felt like a shithead for wasting that man's time. So it was a good lesson to learn.
Yeah, it wasn't like in high school where you're like, uh-oh, I didn't do the project. I'm going to whip something up real quick. It's
Right.
Like, no, you got to face the responsibility of what happened.
You couldn't just whip something up like that. You just couldn't.
Yeah.
You know, it was a different time.
All right, so you've been in the print shop business for a long time. 20 years, would you say about?
45.
45 years. So that's a long time of doing print work.
Yes.
So what made you, because obviously you run your own business now, what kind of made you get out of the print business?
Well, after working at Armada Printwear for 20 years, I just decided maybe it was time to go out into the big, scary world because, you know, being at Armada in a little print shop in the middle of nowhere.
Comfortable, right?
Very comfortable. Loved it. Loved every minute of it. I hated leaving, but I just thought maybe it was time.
To make that jump.
To make a jump. To go out and see, well, geez, if you think you're so damn good, go out into the big world.
Yeah.
So I did that. So I went to another print shop, which was fine. I ended up leaving and going to a much, much bigger print shop. It was like a union print shop. They offered me just way too much money, and I couldn't turn it down. I actually went on an interview with this company who was opening up a union, like I said, a union print shop in Detroit. And he heard about me, and he got a hold of me somehow, asked me to come in for an interview. And I didn't really want to go because I thought, nah, this is too big.
This is not me.
I like small. I like more personal. This sounded like this was too corporate.
Yeah.
You know, even though it was a shop. But anyway, me along with, you know, a few other of the guys that I was working with at the time, we all got together and said, well, let's go talk to this guy, and if he gives us the money that we want, we're going to vote on it. We're either all going to go together as a crew, or none of us are going. I kind of decided I really didn't want to, but I thought, okay, I'll you know, these were
check it
my
out.
guys. I was running the print shop by that time.
Yeah.
You know, I was basically the manager. I was making up the schedules and everything. So went and talked to this guy, and I thought, okay, when I had my interview, so he's this big shot guy that's kind of a jackass. He goes, and you know, this is how it kind of played out in my mind. Is like, well, Bejma, I hear you're the best. I want you on my team. So tell me, how much do you want to come work for me? And I'm thinking, okay. I mean, at the time, I was making like $26,000 at the print shop I was at, which was okay money.
Yeah, okay for the time.
It was
Yeah.
okay for the time. And I thought, well, I'm just going to give this guy a number that he's just going to go, oh, hell no. They're not paying you that. So I goes, oh, you know, what's it going to take? I said, give me $50,000. I thought I'd just double my pay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll move for $50,000. That was a lot of money then.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we're talking like 1990. It was a lot of money, especially for what I was doing. And he just went, okay, you got it. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, shit.
What did I just get myself
Aw,
into?
man.
I should have asked for more.
Yeah, I should ask for 75. What an idiot. So after all of us, there was like about 6 of us in our crew at the shop, and we all had our interviews, and then we all went across the street at a bar to discuss it. And like one guy goes, well, yeah, I told him I was, because he was a printer, so he was making less than I was. He goes, yeah, I was making 15 at this place. I told him, yeah, give me 20 and I'll go. And the guy said yes, and it was story. Everybody said basically the same thing. And then finally they looked at me. He goes, what are you smiling about? He goes, what did you do? I said, I told him 50. And they went, what? He goes, yeah. And he said, yeah. And they're like, are you kidding me? I go, no, I'm making 50 grand. You guys think small.
Yeah.
He goes, what the hell? He goes, I just didn't really want to do it. But for 50 grand, yeah, let's go. Screw it. Let's all go. And it turned out to be the biggest joke. It was nothing but a money laundering thing for the UAW. It was awful. It was awful. Although the people that were working there were great.
Yeah, because he wanted to bring in good workers.
He brought in good workers. You had all these little Yugoslavian grandmothers, about 50 of them upstairs sewing jackets. They were all amazing. I'd go up there and talk to them. They'd all just kind of like Twitter, oh, Mr. Steve. Because I actually went up there and talked to them and learned their names. And, on payday.
Because you're the manager, basically, right? You're running the shop.
I was basically the manager. By default, I wasn't really hired to be the manager.
It just kind of happened.
But nobody was doing it. So I just kind of like, okay, well.
Well, you sounded like you knew what you were doing. You were personable. And they're like, this guy seems like he knows what he's doing. Let's just listen to him.
Apparently I'm, I don't know. I guess I just kind of discovered that part of me a little bit later in life that like, yeah, you
can take command of a room.
I'm just going to be in charge. I would go up there on payday and hand them their paychecks, not just put them in the time slot. I would go up here, Ubavka, here's your paycheck, and blah 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 blah, and they were just sweet ladies, but it was terrible. It was just tons of money would come in, and we would go to make payroll, and the very next day it was gone, just gone, and it was just like the owner was
this
just
ain't
looking at me
right.
like no. It's a quick little story I'll throw in here to demonstrate. So after a little while, they started confiding in me, the ladies upstairs, and they start telling me like, well, I have 7 paychecks that I can't cash. They all telling me the same thing. They all had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That's
paychecks.
A lot of paychecks.
Yes,
that's months of
money, and they're
money.
still coming to work. And I'm like, you can't be serious. What do you mean you haven't? He goes, well, I went to the bank and they said there's no money, so I can't cash them. I'm like, okay. So I went and talked to the other guys in my crew, and it's like, okay, well, this is BS. We're not living with this. I mean, those ladies are working hard up there.
Yeah.
So we basically organized kind of a fake strike. They all walked off the job. They didn't really. They just went downstairs and had lunch. But I called the boss and said, ladies are on strike. What the hell for? I said, well,
You're
Don,
not paying them.
they have 3 to 7 paychecks up there that they say they can't cash because there's no money. Oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. That's listen, dude. That's what they're telling me. He's like, well, God damn it. Well, he knew it was true.
Yeah, he's just getting upset. He's finally getting caught,
Right.
or an issue's happening.
Exactly.
Finally.
So he goes, well, you tell them that if they ain't back to work tomorrow, they're all fired. I don't think they care, Don. You're not paying them. Fire them.
Yeah.
And it just kind of sat there for a day or two, and the girls are doing nothing. Finally, he calls me up. All right, Bejma, goddammit. I said, what is what I want you to do? I said, I want you to get all them goddamn women upstairs and get them all in, tell them to bring all their paychecks, line them up in your office. Like, okay. So they were still coming to work every day.
Yeah, well, that's the craziest
They're
part.
upstairs playing music and dancing and cooking on their little hibachis things and having a party up there. They weren't working. So I went up there and I said, okay, listen, ladies, tomorrow come in, bring your paychecks. I'm not kidding. Bring all your paychecks and be in my office. So that next morning, I'm at work and I get them all down there. The owner comes in, sits at my desk, puts a briefcase on my desk, opens it up, and it is literally like you see in a movie. It was full of cash. Wads of cash. I have no idea how much money was in there.
Probably.
But it was a briefcase that was absolutely stuffed
This
full.
thing probably,
yes,
too.
full of cash. And I'd call each lady in. She'd put her paychecks down. I'd add them up, give Don figure. He'd hand out the cash. Next. It took all day.
He's paying so many people that didn't get paid.
Because it was like 100 people.
That's ridiculous.
And, it didn't even take all the money that he had. And I'm going, well, if those ladies couldn't cash their paychecks, where'd that money come from?
That's the money he's pulling out of the company.
Well, yeah.
And not putting back into that one.
So that was kind of the nail in the coffin. After that, I realized I can't work here. So like a week later, he was in, which wasn't very often. I just walked up to his office and I said, listen, sir, this is not for me. This is not the environment I can, my stomach was upset all the time. Trying to get people to do work.
Like you're getting paid, but they're not getting paid.
Yeah, I'm getting paid. They're not getting paid. It was just such chaos. I can't do this. I can't sleep at night. This is not right. This is not what I want to be involved in. So I just kind of took the key to the building, threw it on his desk. I said, I'm out of here. And it was like from his office to the street where my car was kind of a long walk because it was a huge building.
Yeah.
It was like 200,000 square foot building, 2 floors. It was huge. So it took a long time to walk to my car, and the whole time I'm thinking, well, now what am I going to do?
What am I going to do?
This is actually the first time I've ever been out of a job since I was 13 years old, and I think I was 30, early 30s, 32 maybe, somewhere around there. And I went home, and I just like, what did I just do? Holy shit.
Finally, reality sets in.
Yes. But then the next day, all the customers that were still going to that print shop to get their stuff done, the union guys, this and that, they still needed artwork done. So through the guys that were still there, they called me and they said, okay, Bejma, can you do this for me? It's like, well, yeah, I guess. It's like, well, I'll just pay you directly. How much? I go, $50. Okay. So like I scrambled, went to the store, got a printer.
Got everything you needed.
Got a new computer. I had a phone line and a fax line put in that week.
Yeah, because you're starting to get all these people and you're seeing all these numbers come in and you can just.
They're calling me all day long.
Yeah.
And I didn't have cell phone. We didn't have cell phones then, so they're calling me on my house phone. Phone's just ringing off the hook all damn day long. And I'm just like keeping track of all the work I'm doing in this little cheapy ledger book that I got at, Office Supply.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, and after like a month, I'm going, wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think I need to go print up some business cards. And that's how actually my business started.
Just like that, you left that place.
Yeah, not because I said, I'm going to start my own business.
It just happened almost organically.
I just happened to be out of work for a day, and it just happened. And that was like almost 30 years ago.
All right, so we went over how you became an artist. We went over how you worked at a print shop in Armada, and then you worked at a corporate print shop that was just basically run by some scumbag. And you left, and then you just started getting all their business, and you successfully have been running your own, business for a long time now. And currently, in the present now, you have been going to Comic-Con conventions, doing the Comic-Con circuit. What made you go from just owning your own business to now wanting to jump in the Comic-Con world?
Well, it was just, again, one of those, I guess it really is kind of a fluke thing. Because here I am, I'm running my little graphic company, and I'm making good money, and
life's great.
Yeah, life is great. I it's since like moved out of working from home, and I was renting an office. I had an assistant. I had a secretary.
The American dream.
You couldn't come into my office and get a latte and a bagel because I didn't want you to stay because I had work to do.
Yeah.
Mine was like the no frills art department. Come in and tell me what you want and get the hell out. I'm busy.
Where is this location at?
Well, my first office was in Detroit, and then we moved to Fraser, and then the last place I was at it was still in Fraser. We moved around a little bit because I basically just needed like an office desk and my laptop.
Yeah.
But I would always hook up with some friends of mine that had businesses also. Like, my one friend of mine at the time, he had a print shop, and another friend had an embroidery business. So we all got together and rented a building so we could house all 3 companies.
Yeah.
We're all completely separate, but you could come to our place and you could get screen printing, embroidery, and artwork. And we could feed each other.
Yep.
Work.
And hey, you need this? Boom. Do this here?
Right.
Boom.
And because I had been around so long, I had all the contacts. I had all the customers.
Yeah.
So they'd come to me, get the artwork. Okay, have Marianne embroider that for you. Have Steve print that for you. So it was a natural. It was easy. But that's going along just fine and great, and too much work. And then I basically meet my second wife, Lisa. Aunt Lisa to you.
Yes, my aunt. Yeah, if anyone you know, this is my uncle, by the way. I should have said it from the beginning, but this is my uncle.
So, we have a baby, and, I'm working, and I've decided I really need to step up my game here, because now I got a house and a baby.
You got a mini you.
I got a little mini me, which is frightening as all hell. Because I know how expensive I probably was. This little guy's going to kill me. So I thought, okay, I got all this. I need to, maybe even do better. So I'm really busting butt. I'm working 15 hours a day, just going at it. And somewhere, I don't even know why. I mean, because I always painted for relaxation. I used to paint a lot when I was younger, but for like 20 years, I just didn't have time, and it just didn't strike me. And for some reason, I just decided I'm going to pull out my oil paints and I'm going to start painting again, just for a way to relax.
Yeah. Like you just worked 15 hours, you dealt with the kid,
Yeah,
your wife. You're like, I just want to go downstairs and just paint and have some me time.
Yes. Put on some music, put on a horror movie, listen to it, paint a picture. Of course, my chosen subject has always been like classic horror stuff. It started off when I was 5, like we
talked about, and then it just
and
blossomed into
it
now.
was still always there. It's like, well, what am I going to paint? Oh, I'm going to paint Frankenstein and Dracula and all of that stuff. So I started doing that. And, there were a couple of horror movie conventions and Comic-Cons around at the time, and we're talking 20 years ago. There was a couple. And, of course, at the time, Lisa was pregnant. So that Christmas, while she was pregnant, she had bought me 2 tickets to go to a horror convention, I think in Cleveland. Because she said, well, you know what? After our son is born, you're not going to have time for anything. So take your dad. Uncle Ronnie ended up going. My brother Ronnie ended up coming too. You guys go have fun. It's going to be your last hurrah. Because when parenthood hits, now you're screwed because you have no time. Well, true, of course. Now I got to be responsible.
And little did you know.
Right. So we went. We had a great time. And here's the wonderful Uncle Ronnie part, who is a great guy, but a little rough around the edges.
Let's say a character, let's say the least.
Uncle Ronnie was a character. So we're at this convention. We're looking around. We're having a great time. And Ronnie's like away. He's like across the room.
Just doing his own thing.
Just doing his own thing. And, of course, we're all half in the bag, And there happened to be a guy there that had paintings that he had done that was set up there as a vendor. And I'd kind of seen him from across the room, but I hadn't gone over and looked at him yet. But Ronnie was standing in front of the guy looking at the paintings. And from across the room, Ronnie yells, "Hey, Stevie! Why the hell don't you do this? Your paintings are a fuck of a lot better than this guy's." Right in front of the guy. And I'm going, Ronnie, stop, don't.
You're not going to piss him off.
Yeah, don't. The guy's doing his thing. Leave him alone. And I remember they were okay. They weren't bad.
Yeah.
But,
But he's looking at the price. You're like, oh, you
Right.
selling them for these much?
It's like, why the hell don't you do this? And it just struck me right there. I go, well, she says, why don't I do this? Yeah. So while we were there, I actually found the promoter, talked to him. He goes, yeah, send me a check for $250 and you can have a table.
You're like, that easy.
Just that easy. I went, oh, okay. Well, we were just bought a house and we just had, just going to have a baby. So money was maybe just a little bit tight, So writing a check for $250 for a vendor table in Ohio was maybe not the greatest of idea without talking to my wife first. But I did it. And then that particular promoter walked and stole everybody's money, including
What?
mine.
No.
He didn't pay the hotel, he didn't pay the celebrities, and he took all the vendors' money and just skipped town. So there goes my $250 for my first table.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And I'm like, oh, crap. Because, I'd look at the website for the show, and it'd be like, no updates. 6 months, no updates. 3 months, no updates. The show's in a month. There's no updates.
There's nothing.
There's nothing. It's just all the shit from the last year's show. Well, I start doing some Google searching, blah, 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 blah. I find out this guy got arrested and he's in prison now.
Well, awesome.
And the show is completely kaput.
That's
He
always good
stole
to find
everybody's
out.
money. So in panic, I just started calling around. I found another show in Ohio. And
So this point you're in, you're like, I want to do this now.
I want to do this. Yeah. And I called this guy up who was a promoter for a different show. And he said, yeah, I'll get you in. I'll get you into my show. Sure. Send me. He goes, you know what? Pay me when you get here. Just that simple.
Yeah.
Pay me when you get here. Okay. And then I realized, shit, now I got to get some paintings done.
Yeah, now I got to work.
Now I got to do some work. So I just started cranking paintings.
Just every night, just working at a different
I
painting.
yeah. I mean, I was like, working till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, go to bed for a couple hours, get up in the morning, paint a little bit more, then go to my regular office job. And the whole time I'm at work, I'm thinking about painting. Anyway, I got a bunch of paintings done, went to my first show, scared to death, didn't know what the hell I was doing.
She's like, hey, look at me.
And then I realized after an hour, okay, no one's laughing at me. No one's walking by going, oh, look at that shit. There wasn't a guy like my brother going, hey, look at this guy's shitty stuff. And then, it just from there, I started doing, one show, and I would do 3 shows a year. And then probably by, the 5th year, I'm doing 20, 25 shows a year. And I realized I can do this.
And now you're slowing down on your other work. And this work is it's almost like.
Right.
Almost.
And the interesting thing is that time when I noticed that I can do this and I was, I don't know if we could say good at it, but I enjoyed it, was in the 2008 recession where corporate work just came to a standstill. So my business took a great big huge hit from that because corporate America wasn't buying stuff that they needed me to design. But conventions were starting to pick up. It went from having, say, 4 conventions in the Midwest. Now there's 20.
Yeah.
Now there's 30. So I would just go, I would just sit at night and do Google searches on conventions and go, oh, that looks interesting. I'll contact that person and talk to them, do as much, recon as I could do. And just started picking up shows and, say
Start spiraling really
5,
from there.
6 years, I'm doing 20, 25 shows a year and making good money. So that was picking up and replacing the stuff that I had lost in that recession.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff never came back. But now I had a whole cottage industry of me, going to conventions, selling my artwork, doing the T-shirts, and then, slowly introducing some other things, prints and then pins and buttons.
DVD covers, magazines, all that type
Well,
of stuff.
the DVD covers and stuff, that came as a direct result of me standing at a convention.
Yeah.
And looking at that guy over there who releases old movies. They restore and release old movies. And just go talking to him. 20 years ago, I would never have been able to just go up to some guy I have no idea who it is and just start talking to him and go, hi, I'm Steve. I'm an artist. You should have me do some work for you. Anything you need, blah, blah, blah. Now I could do that. And that's what got me those jobs, is to just go up, talk to them, develop a relationship with them, and then sooner or later they'll throw you something. And if you do the job well, they'll throw you some more.
And it all turns into what you said in the very beginning, all those contacts and
Yes.
everyone, just the networking is so important with what
Yes.
you're doing.
There's so much more that goes into a convention that, the average people don't see. It's like 2 completely different worlds going on. As an attendee, you go to meet celebrities, buy some stuff, have a great time. When I go, okay, I'm obviously there to sell my stuff, because I do need to make money because I have to pay for all that stuff. But the more important part is, okay, this guy's going to be there. I need to go talk to him. I want to give this guy my business cards. I met this guy last time. I want to follow up.
Yep.
So there's all this networking that's going on, underneath the show where guys like me get their work.
So, you've been doing these comic conventions for what? Probably 20-ish years now, probably?
I think this would be my 18th year.
So coming up to 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
You've had a lot of conventions doing 20, 25, 30 year. Me and you have been doing Great Lakes Comic Con for, you've been doing it longer than me.
Right.
I've been covering it for 5-6 years, talking to you with TV Warn and doing all that fun stuff. And obviously we've created a lot of memories there.
Sure.
What's probably your favorite memory of all these comic conventions? What's a funny story, your favorite memory, just doing all of this, Just don't even hold back. Just tell us something hilarious because you're going to all these shows that are sometimes probably R-rated and G-rated and different celebrities and all this stuff's going on. Just give us something that people are going to love to hear.
There's some stuff that goes on that what happens at conventions stays at conventions. There's one in particular in Cleveland, Cinema Wasteland, which is just known as a party show. It's like, I didn't even care how much money I made there.
Just went there to have fun.
I was going there because, number one, it was the very first convention I had ever done. So it had a soft spot in my heart. But it was just a drunken brawl. It was, no fights or anything like that, but it was just a drunk fest. And I remember, late at night after the show, we're talking like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're just wandering around with a beer, and we walk over to the pool area, and there's like a dozen naked women swimming with guys filming, and they're filming a movie. It's like, no, they're not. They're not filming a movie. They're just
having a great time.
They're just having fun. And if they were really filming a movie, they would not have let us in.
No.
This is a closed set. And you walk in, and there's okay. No one's objecting that we're here.
Like,
wow,
this is life right now.
Yeah, this is okay. You want to sit down and
have a cocktail, chill.
Yeah, sit down and have a drink and
enjoy the show.
There's some stuff going on there that shouldn't be done in this hotel in the water. I'm sure the management would object to that, but I'm not going to say anything.
No, why would you?
No, they're having fun, and it's late, and there's nobody up but us.
Yeah.
There was always so much stuff like that. I watched some guy push a girl on a luggage cart.
Yeah.
We're on like the third floor, and we're just hanging out, because there's like parties and rooms all over the place.
Yeah, mini parties within the parties.
Yeah, it's like, hey, after the show, after everybody comes back for dinner, let's go down to the lobby, get a couple of drinks, and then I got a party up in my room, third floor, room 315, whatever. Come on up, have a drink. Oh, okay.
Yeah, why not?
A guy you've never talked to before.
Yeah.
Come on in, have a drink, blah, blah, blah. So, we're like walking around just seeing what's going on, and, kind of turn the corner, and here comes a luggage cart with a topless girl on coming towards me. And, I just remember looking at, the guys I was with. It's like, God, ain't life great?
Yeah, right?
We're
here to sell some artwork, and this is what we're getting.
I know it's a little, some people might think that's a little tasteless, and, but it's like, it's not harming anybody.
No, it's just some good, clean fun at a after hours convention show.
Yeah, and well, my mom is gone, so she won't hear this, so I can finally tell this story. So I would bring my dad with me to a lot of these because he just loved the fact that I made my living drawing monsters.
And going back to the story, he used to bring you downstairs to watch movies, now this is what it's at.
Yeah, he was the start of it. He was absolutely the start of it and the reason why I do what I do. So, I would always bring him, and it was like a little mini vacation for Dad. And but Dad had a way of just disappearing. He was supposed to be there to kind of give me a hand. So, like, I could go to the bathroom, maybe. Go
have a cigarette.
Drink, go outside, have a cigarette. Okay, Dad, watch the table for 15 minutes. I'll be back. But then he'd be gone for 3 hours while I'm standing there doing the pee-pee dance going, oh, my God, Dad, where are you? I actually bought him a phone, but that's another story. So
I can only imagine.
He's gone, and finally he comes back after hours, and I'm like, Dad, where have you been? He goes, well, and he's got a red cup, and he's just trashed. He's just trashed. I go, what are you drinking? He goes, well, I don't know, those people over there, Stephanie and Jack. Yeah, oh, I don't know. Yeah, he goes, they gave me some. It's called apple pie, and it's got like the big red cup, the huge one. I'm like, well, that's just pure alcohol, Dad.
It's probably moonshine, right?
They go, how many of those have you had? I don't know, probably about 5 or 6. I'm like, you had 5 or 6 full glasses of apple pie? I'm like, oh, my God. What were you, upstairs in the room sleeping? He goes, well, no, I went upstairs to get a beer. Because the first stop that him and my dad and Ronnie would always do is as soon as we got to the hotel, they'd go to the grocery store and get like 2 cases of beer
Just
for the room.
Yeah.
You know, buy one at the bar,
Go
2
to
from
the
the
room.
room. Yeah, I was going up to the room to get a beer, and some guy stopped me and said, "Hey, we got a party in here. Come on in and have a drink." So I went, well, okay, I'll go and have a drink. And so I'm just sitting on the bed, and there's a bunch of people in there. God, there had been about 20 people in this teeny tiny little room. And I kind of looked around, and there's 2 girls dancing on the bed topless. And I thought, well, I don't see any reason to leave right now.
No, I don't
I'm
think
just
so.
going to sit here and have my beers. Because, and after they were done dancing and they sat down and they were talking to me, they were really nice girls.
Of course, they're always nice girls.
Well, yeah, they're always nice. And I'm just looking at my dad, kind of giving that puppy dog look. I just kind of turned my head, and I'm like, Mom is going to kill me. If Mom ever finds out what you do when you're under my watch, she's going to kill me.
And say, no more conventions.
No, Ronnie, you are not allowed to go with your son to conventions anymore. You just get into trouble. It's like, He goes, well, I'm not going to tell your mother. I go, well, I'm not going to either, but damn it,
Don't
Dad.
put me in this situation. Don't tell me this stuff.
Every time that you say you're coming with me to the show, I always get a phone call from Mom says, you have to watch your father's drinking. He's a 75-year-old man.
I'm not stopping him.
What am I? It's like, Dad, you can't drink anymore. Go to your room. He's going to look at me and go, I'll kick your ass. I mean, he's my father. You don't get to do that.
No.
So Dad, just don't drop dead of a heart attack when you're with me. I'm going to be in so much trouble. Not that he dropped dead of a heart attack. It's just I'm going to be in a lot of trouble when I get home. But because he would disappear like that, one year I bought him a cell phone. I said, listen, Dad, just keep this phone. It's just a simple flip phone. This was years ago. So, when you're out doing what you're doing, and I don't want to tell you what to do.
Just give me updates.
But just, if I need you, there's only one number programmed in here. If your phone rings, it's me. Nobody else has this phone number. And all you got to do is just open it and push this big green button and say hello. That's all you got to do. Okay.
I could do that.
I think I could do that. So, we're there Friday and we're still like setting up, and Dad's off doing whatever. And, I hadn't seen him in a while. I'm getting close to being done to setting up, and he's still gone. And suddenly I hear over the PA system, Dad comes walking towards me. And I hear over the PA system, excuse me, hotel people? Yeah, somebody left their cell phone up in the lobby. Could you check and see if you lost your phone? We have it up at the front desk, so please come and see Sandy at the front desk. And just about then, Dad walks up and goes, hey, Dad, where's your phone? Well, it's in my pocket. Dad, your phone's up at the front desk. It took you less than a half an hour to lose your phone.
Like, what were you doing playing with it out at the lobby?
How did you? What were you doing?
Trying to get someone's number, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Probably figured out that much. You could put more phone numbers in that phone.
Oh my God! He goes, well, I guess that phone was a good investment. And then I would call him later. Of course, he would never answer it. Well, I heard it make a noise. I didn't know what it meant. Dad, that meant that ringing.
What did I tell you a half hour ago?
Yes, that ringing. That's like, oh, answer.
Oh my God,
it's me.
That is hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. So it seems like you have a lot of fun at these conventions, and literally, as I was saying, there's after hours to these conventions.
Yes,
a lot of after hours. So clearly, you've had a lot of fun, but obviously, with the whole COVID hitting, big gatherings of crowds aren't really happening. What can you give updates to anyone out there who enjoys conventions as much as you do and I do, and vendors and people who run them? You're obviously in the circuit. You know what's going on is more than someone. What's happening right now in this world? Like, what's going on? Like, what can you give us?
Well, I mean, I hate to be able to say this, but absolutely nothing.
Really, just nothing at all.
I mean, some shows have said, listen, send us an email. We'll reserve your spot for next year. If it happens, we'll take your money. But they're not even taking money.
They don't want to gamble.
Because they don't want to have to give it back.
Yeah.
So, we thought, okay, this is going to last a couple of months and we'll go back to normal, But now the shows that would have normally started in February, Great Lakes Comic-Con being one of them,
Yeah, that's right around the corner.
Okay, that's not very far away. They're pretty much up in the air. They're probably not going to happen. You know, the shows that normally would start the year in February, you know, they're very much in doubt. You know, I have 3 shows at the beginning of February: Astronomicon, Great Lakes Comic-Con, and then one out in Jackson called Blood Bash, which is just a really small show.
But still, that's 3 big shows that
That's
you're
3
missing
shows to start the year off, you know, after, you know, a couple months of, you know, hibernating.
Christmas,
It's
Thanksgiving.
It's nice to
all
get
that.
back out on the road and talk to people that I haven't seen in a while. But, you know, from the feelers that we've been able to put out, you know, I think Astronomicon is going to announce one way or another within the next couple of days. I'm guessing it's not happening.
I just don't see how it can right now.
Well, you know, I was talking to it with a couple of other vendors. I actually did have a small show last weekend, just this last Saturday.
It's outdoors?
It was outside in Ferndale on Saturday. So, like, by 8
I want to say like
o'clock-
probably a farmer's market feel to it.
Yeah, it kind of did. It was just
Yeah.
in a parking lot, just off of 8 Mile Livernois area. It was, you know, it was nice. So there was only like 13 vendors there.
Yeah.
A friend of mine put it on. He goes, "You want to come?" I went, "Yeah, sure. Why not? It's a show."
Yeah, it's something.
Even though, you know, by 8 o'clock I was freezing my butt off because we
Yeah.
were outside.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was still nice to get out and see some people. You know, see some of my friends that I haven't seen since February.
And just to check up on them.
Check up on them. See, are they okay?
You guys
know?
are a small little community. You guys look out for each other.
Sure. I mean, we text each other. We, you know, call and, you know, keep track of each other on social media. But, you know, it's not the same as like actually standing in front of somebody and going, "How you doing?"
Yeah, I'm being there for
You know?
a day or 2.
Yeah. So, you know, all of these shows, so February's in doubt. There's huge shows in March, Horror Hound in Cincinnati. That's a 30,000 person show.
And then looking forward to that, in May you have
Well, we have Motor City
Motor City
Comic-Con.
Comic-Con.
and
That's
then-
that's 120,000 people.
That's a huge amount of people, and that is a monstrous part of my yearly income.
Yeah.
I mean, we gear up for that.
It's a 3-day event?
It's a 3-day event.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all day.
Well, you know, to us, it's a 4-day event.
Because you have to set up Thursday.
Because we'll set up on Thursday, so that's a Thursday, and then the show starts at noon on Friday.
Yeah, like noon to 9,
Yes.
and then like at 12 to 6, something like that, right? Yeah.
And then Monday, you're so trash that you just kind of lay on the couch and go,
That was a blur.
"Yeah, I'm not moving."
Those events happen so quick. Just me even being at Great Lakes Comic-Con covering it, that stuff just happens so quick. You're there for 2 days. It's 24 hours, and then you're like,
It goes by so
what
fast.
just happened?
Yes.
You
You know,
know?
you have a great time. It's a lot of work. You know, hopefully if you're a vendor, you know, hopefully
Make some
you've
money.
made
That's
a
the
little bit of
ultimate
money and
goal.
that it's been worth it in however you view it to be worth it. But, you know, it seems like you just get there and then you're going, "Oh, I got to break down?
yeah,
Go home?
absolutely.
I don't want to go home." You know, it's always like that.
Yeah,
It's like, "Oh, it's Sunday. I don't want to go back to reality."
right.
But, you know, eventually you do. But, you know, I guess in a very roundabout way, because that's how I kind of am, a little rambly sometimes. You know, we hear rumors about some shows, and, you know, some of the promoters keep us in the loop a little bit. But basically,
Feel like they don't have
they
information.
don't know.
Yeah,
They don't know. And, you know, say like, you know, now Great Lakes Comic-Con, that might be a little bit different. It's a little bit more of a family show.
yeah,
Okay, it's a big venue. They could maybe space that out better
yeah.
and give us a little bit
Yeah,
more
MCC is
room.
pretty big.
And if, you know, Mike tells people, "Listen, you're coming in, you got to wear a mask.
Yeah,
Got to wear a mask." I don't think it's going to be an issue.
I don't think so either.
I would definitely go.
Yeah,
Absolutely would go. But now, you know, the other show in February is Astronomicon in Sterling Heights. And that's put on by the Twisted
yeah.
Band. Okay, that's a completely different group of people.
Yeah, it's a different vibe. It's a party vibe.
It's a party vibe, and
Little do say probably a lot of Trump supporters who probably wouldn't want to wear masks.
yeah, right. And, you know, these are, you know, and nothing against them. Because
No, nothing against them.
Because
It's
all
just-
the ones I've talked to have been really, really super cool. You know, they kind of have a reputation as being pretty rowdy, but they really weren't.
Yeah,
However, I've never smelled so much pot in my entire life in a hotel.
yeah,
Because these guys are just smoking 24/7. Okay, I'm thinking, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just thinking that group of people that you're going to tell them that they just drove 24 hours to get to this hotel for this convention, you have to wear a mask for 3 days. I'm thinking, I'm not going to want to.
No, I don't think so either.
So having to police that on the promoter's part could be more of a nightmare and a headache than would be worth
Actually
putting
it
on a
on,
show.
actually putting it on.
Right. So I don't blame him if he can't do it, even if the state says, yeah, go ahead and do it. But you got
It might be too much of a headache.
Right. I mean, again, okay, we have to social distance the table, so you can only have half the vendors in there, which means you can only have half the people in there.
And then they have to up the tables.
Right. And does that mean that even if I go, am I able to make enough money to justify those 3 days?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I live close. I only live a mile and a half away from the show, but there's people that come from all over the country to go to these shows.
Yeah.
It's not unusual, you're talking to a vendor and say, well, yeah, where'd you come from? Oh, yeah, I came from North Carolina. You drove all the way from North Carolina to be at this show? Yeah.
That's what I got to do.
That's his business, just like me.
Yeah.
I've driven to New York. I've driven to St. Louis.
You went to Cali, right, too?
We fly to Cali,
Yeah.
but we've gone out to California for a couple of shows. I mean, I've been everywhere. I mean, it was not unusual for me, like the St. Louis show. I had to be there at like 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday to start setting up. So I left Thursday at midnight.
Yeah, drive there, get there.
I went to work, came home at 5, slept for a couple hours, loaded up the van, and at midnight, I'm driving to St. Louis so I can be there at 9 o'clock. And I can't stop because it's a 10-hour drive.
And that's what's tough with all these people, like with this whole shutdown and not having these events. A lot of people like you are needing to go to these events. And I remember you saying, we talked about this before, you don't know if half these shows are going to survive.
Right.
And you don't know, and that might leave opportunities for more shows to pop up. But in the state that we are right now, it's looking like more shows are going to get depleted because some of these probably shows bank on almost like paycheck to paycheck. They're going from show to show each year to be
definitely.
like, we need to survive each year to have our show.
Right.
So and if that's not happening, like you said, there's going to be more shows gone than there was.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I won't name names or anything because that's pointless. But for all the shows that got canceled this year, almost every one of the promoters said, "Listen, you got an email. Listen, show's canceled. You can either push your money for next year, and your table's paid for 2021, or I'll send you your money back."
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
Well, if you're in some financial straits and you put out, because if you have to pay for 25 shows
for a whole year's worth ahead of time,
that adds up.
Yeah,
you're not paying those shows when you go there. They're asking for their money almost anywhere from 6 months to a year ahead of time.
Because they need that money for the building, the celebrities.
Exactly.
They have stuff that need to pay
Right.
for, so they use your money to get that stuff.
Yes.
And like you said, they don't want to give that money back because they're like, oh, we paid this person, we can't get it back from them. No, we can't pay you.
Right. But
it's just almost like a trickle-down effect.
Right, but there has been a couple of shows where, the show got canceled and they said, not giving you your money back.
So that's just awful.
It's not an option. We're going to postpone it till next year. Well,
You can't guarantee that.
I'm out of work and I need the $500. Not giving it back.
That's ridiculous.
That's not a reputable show. That's a show that's not gonna.
And that's like you said, not going to stick around for the next year.
Right.
Because like I said, you guys are in a community and stuff. People are going to talk like, we're not going to them next year. They screwed us and we're not going.
The most gossipy people in the world, convention vendors.
I believe it. You guys are a nice little group.
When a promoter screws over somebody, a vendor,
Everyone knows.
oh, we all know, like within minutes.
Yeah.
Don't go do that show. That guy's a douchebag.
Yep.
Don't give him your money. Now, if a show, says, well, I'm not giving you your money back, well, that's because they don't have it.
Yeah, they spent it.
That's because they spent it.
Yep. Or lined it in their pocket. And
Right.
You don't know what these people are doing
I
really
don't
with
know
it.
and don't really care.
Yeah.
So
You just want to go to your shows.
I just want to do my shows. Now, I can say that, almost with 2 exceptions, almost every promoter offered our money back. And just to, even say Great Lakes Comic-Con, okay? Mike sent us an email. Hey, don't know if the show's going to happen in February, but send me an email. Do you want your spot? I will hold it for you. I don't want your money.
Yeah. Just wait until I can get a confirmation.
Wait until see what happens. And if it happens and if we can do it, then I'll say, okay, you can pay me now.
Yeah.
because
and that's how
hey,
it should happen.
Everybody's having a tough time.
Yeah.
Motor City Comic Con, the day after they announced that they were canceling the show, they sent me my money back.
And that's good.
The next day.
And that's reputable. That's a good show.
That's why they've been around for 30 years, and
Yeah.
they'll stay around for another 30 because they're doing it the right way.
Yep. And well, we hope that, this stuff does. I mean, we don't know what's going on with COVID, and we hope that these shows come back, but it's looking like if it doesn't, these outside shows are probably going to be the way to go.
Well, like I said, I just did that little outside show last weekend, and,
Yep.
we're talking, and, I'm not a big, I don't like outside shows because I hate to be at the mercy of the weather.
Yeah.
It could rain. It could, be cold. I just don't like it. I'd rather be in air conditioning so I
Yeah.
can have room service.
But if that's what's got to be, that's what I got to
But
be.
if the only thing that's given to us that we can do, say this coming up summer, is do some small outside shows, well, then I guess so be it.
Yeah.
Just going to have to learn to adjust to that and be prepared.
The new normal.
And if it's going to be the new normal for a year,
That's what it's got to be.
or however long it's going to be before we can get back to doing what we normally do, then that's just the way it's going to have to be. Because oddly enough, after doing these things for so long, with as shy of a person as I used to be, now I'm so addicted to doing this. I got to go to
You
a
want
show.
it to come back, yeah.
Because I got to go talk to people.
Yeah.
I took a part-time job at just to fill some time at a local Halloween store, Crypt Keepers Emporium in Centerline at 10 and Vike, shameless plug, 10 and Van Dyke. And I thought, well, I've never worked in retail. I've never worked in a store. Hell, I've never even had it's been 30 years since I had a real job.
Yeah.
I've been self-employed for so long. So, and he was already carrying all of my shirts and merchandise, and he needed some help during the day. I said, well, I'm not doing anything. All my shows are canceled. So he said, okay, show up on Monday. Well, I really like it because, you know what? I basically stand around and bullshit with people just like at conventions. And every once in a while, I got to go over to the cash register and bring them up.
Yeah, right.
But basically, I just, hang around and talk to people. And it's kind of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So it's kind of filling that void. The whole situation is just kind of in flux. Nobody really knows.
Yeah, nobody knows what's going on.
We keep trying to find out. And, we can only get little bits of information here and there because, promoters, they kind of keep things close to the vest, but we hear things. And quite frankly, it's not looking good.
No.
It really isn't.
It's all up in the air.
I'm thinking that if we could actually get in a couple of maybe outside shows towards the end of summer, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Most of us are thinking this 2021 is going to be a complete write-off.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's such a shame, And so we talked about how you got to be an artist. We talked about print shops. We talked a little about Comic-Cons and the whole just what's going on. Clearly you said there's not much really going on. So, where can people contact you? Obviously, you said you work at the store Crypt Keepers, right?
Crypt Keepers on 10 Mile in Centerline.
So if you want to go see Classic Horror, Steven Bejma at Crypt Keepers, you can go there, buy some of his work there.
Yes.
Say hi if you've been to the conventions and miss him. But where else can people get a hold of you? Facebook, anything like that? What are you doing out there to get people to get a hold of you if they want to purchase anything that you like?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook under both my names, Steve Bejma and Classic Horrors. I've got 2 pages. I have an Etsy page, which is just Classic Horrors 13. I throw some products up there on occasion, but I'm not really one much for internet sales because I'm old school. I actually like to talk to my customers at conventions. And, another point that this is probably really stupid, but to me, it's kind of important. Okay, you can go to my Etsy site and you can buy a T-shirt from there. But by the time you add in all the fees and the shipping and, all the associated stuff that goes with it, I have to sell you a T-shirt for $30. Well, why don't you just wait till next month and come and see me at such and such a show and I could sell it to you for $20?
Yeah, that's a true point.
So I just don't like charging people for things that I don't have to. But if somebody sees me and they live in California because I
want to buy it,
a lot of stuff out west, well, yeah, I'm probably not going to see them for a while. So yeah, I have stuff up there for them. But so Etsy site, Classic Horrors 13, Facebook. I'm on Instagram under Classic Horrors. I'm just kind of learning Snapchat, but I'm technologically challenged.
You'll get there.
Well, I use it all the time, but right now I'm only using it to talk to my son in California because Chris is, he's a Marine, and he doesn't get my text messages.
So Snapchat's the one that works.
But the Snapchats go through immediately, so I use that, and I keep up with a few other people. I mean, I think I follow you and look at yours.
And we talk from time to time.
From time to time, but it's just the social media thing, for business, it's like, God, it's almost like a full-time job.
It is a full-time job.
And I sit there and I better go check my Facebook and see if there's any messages or any, anything going on there. And pretty soon it's like, okay, it's been an hour and a half. I just pissed away an hour and a half. I should have been over there painting.
Yeah.
So I try to look at it from time to time. I should do better. But what I need to do is I need to rule the world, be the richest, most successful artist in the world, so I can hire somebody
to do all your social media
all my
for
social
you.
media page. Steve says.
Well, hopefully after Everyday Life with Paul and Steve, you're going to get to that point. Thank you so much for joining us and talking to me. It was a pleasure.
It was great to be here, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime.
Okay, great.
Well, Steve, it was pretty awesome. We got to have two pretty cool guests on here today, two completely different people. One was an artist, Steven Bejma, who you just watched. He specializes in classic horror, and he had it's being an artist, it's so interesting on how different paths that people get to,
Really, it's true. I mean, even Mike, how he went down his journey and ended up creating a tool out of nowhere. Basically, he's doing work in his basement and found a way to make his job easier. I thought that was incredible.
No, it's awesome. Just, seeing, we're artists to ourselves just with video production and artists and other things in life. And it's just nice that we get to bring on people that share, creative passion like we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. Exactly. And anyone that we know that is doing creative things, we just want to be a part of it. You're almost drawn to it. And especially how excited they are about it really helps draw your attention. You're just engaged in what they're doing.
No, absolutely. And if you're an artist out there or you're passionate about something and you want to come talk about it on our show, please contact us. You can hit up Steve or on PB Productions, YouTube, Facebook, email. We'll have that all provided for you on the links below. But, Steve, I think that's going to wrap up episode 4 here, our 4th episode. So, Steve, any last thoughts?
No, I think that was a solid job. And thank you again to our guests. We really appreciate Steven Bejma and Mike Switslicki for stopping by. Thank you.
That's awesome. So once again, I'm Paul.
And I'm Steve.
And this is Everyday Life with Paul and Steve.